Singapore-based budget airline Jetstar Asia will cease operations from 31st of July. Its parent company, Qantas, cites increasing costs and competition among the reasons for the exit. More than 500 employees from corporate staff to cabin crew will be let go. Most are Singaporeans or permanent residents. Analysts also expect air ticket prices to go up in the next few weeks as affected passengers search for other options. Nashra Rohim with this report.
Jetstar Asia will be grounded for good on 31st July. It will still operate flights for the next few weeks and gradually reduce its schedule. Changi Airport Group says it is monitoring the 16 affected routes that Jetstar operates. It will engage other airlines to fill the gap if more capacity is needed. CAG is also aiming to restore connectivity on 4 exclusive Jetstar Asia routes, which include destinations like Okinawa in Japan and Wuxi in China.
For 20 years, we've offered millions and millions of low fares to customers, but the cost increases we've seen in this market and the competitive pressure as well has meant we're unable to do that. So the model that we operate in, which is all about low fares, is no longer sustainable.
Some aviation analysts say while other low-cost carriers innovated to maximize operations, Jetstar Asia's parent company Qantas chose to consolidate its budget airline to focus on its core Australian market. One industry observer says other budget airlines like Scoot could take advantage of the void left by Jetstar Asia.
In terms of the airlines that will fill the gaps that Jetstar is vacating, I think an obvious candidate would be Scoot, given that they are a locally based LCC here in Singapore. They will have a natural advantage and also the ability to win over the Singaporean market much more easily.
The National Trades Union Congress and the Singapore Manual and Mercantile Workers Union say they will help the retrenched employees find suitable roles within the aviation or aerospace sectors. In a social media post, Labour Chief Ng Chee Meng said NTUC and its Employment and Employability Institute will be at Changi Airport Terminal 1 next week to provide direct support. These include career coaching, skills upgrading and employability assistance. Affected Jetstar Asia customers will be contacted for a full cash refund or an alternative flight where possible.
And for more, I'm now joined by Chen Chuanren, Regional Editor of Air Transport World at Aviation Week Network. Mr. Chen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now, this announcement comes at a time when air travel is taking off in a big way, especially for Southeast Asia post-COVID. Why was Jetstar not able to tap on this growth?
Well, thank you for having me this evening. Firstly, to answer your question, our Aviation Week data shows that Jetstar Asia only takes up only around 9.4% of the LCC low-cost carrier seat market share out of Changi. And low-cost carrier operates on a very low margin and is only profitable when it has large passenger volume and aircraft utilization. But quite unfortunately, I think Jetstar Asia's fleet has remained largely unchanged at around 13 aircraft for a very long time, and its ability to expand its capacity is quite limited. As mentioned earlier in your broadcast, they do operate some exclusive routes out of Changi to Komodo, Okinawa, but they still compete with many other airlines on competitive routes like Bangkok, Jakarta, where the competition such as Scoot, AirAsia can afford to push prices down based on their sheer scale. But we also have to remember that Qantas set up Jetstar Asia not only to participate in the Southeast Asian growth, but also to use Singapore as a hub to connect its Qantas passengers from Europe to Australia or Australia on Jetstar to the rest of Southeast Asia. And the move of Jetstar Asia from Terminal 1 to Terminal 4 probably did mess up a bit of that connectivity and maybe played a small contributing factor to this withdrawal on top of the mounting costs as well.
Some observers are saying that the announcement is not entirely a surprise, that the low-cost carrier has been largely loss-making throughout its existence, only profitable for 6 of its 20 years. So do you agree that the writing was already on the wall for Jetstar? And how could they have handled the issue of cost differently here?
The analysts and the industry players that you spoke to are correct. It comes at a time when Qantas is embarking on a very long-term modernization, where it's focusing on a massive fleet renewal with a focus on premium long-haul travel from Australia to the rest of the world. So that strategic decision to bring all this entity and aircraft back to Australia give Qantas the flexibility and to control its costs, it very much needed. We also have to remember that Qantas still operate a very small footprint, Jetstar footprint in Japan. So in a way, their low-cost presence outside of Australia is still there. But to answer your question on how to control the cost, I guess it's a little too late. But I think now that their focus in Australia gives them a bit more control on how they manage the routing costs outside of Australia.
As you mentioned there, Mr. Chen, so Jetstar will be moving its fleet to Australia and New Zealand. It appears that they are focusing, Qantas rather, is focusing on its core market there. Are these markets more lucrative or strategically advantageous compared to Asia?
I wouldn't say Australia is more lucrative per se, but since Qantas has the dominant market share in Australia, like how Singapore Airlines Group has dominant market share in Singapore or Cathay in Hong Kong, having all its assets back in home ground allows the airline to have more aircraft to be flexibility deployed to either domestic or international destinations that has more demand, or and hence making the route more feasible and profitable. Probably something that they couldn't have done so in Singapore.
This shutdown will somehow create a new vacuum for Jetstar's so-called 16 intra-Asia routes. So what opportunities does its exit present for other budget airlines? How can they capitalize on the vacated routes here?
Well, there's this airline mantra is that ticket price is a function of supply and demand. With one less player, there could always be a chance that other airlines may increase their prices to take full use of this lack of supply. But at the same time, I think it'll be interesting to see if Scoot or other airlines will step in to take up the airport slots that's left by Jetstar Asia to increase their supply into the market, whether is it to replace the existing route or to increase the frequency. I think separately, the ball is also in the court of Singapore regulators if they are eventually will want to approve a new Singapore-based low-cost carrier to maintain the competitiveness of the market. We do know that there's one or two low-cost carriers wanting to set up base in Singapore, but they were turned down a few times. But personally, I think that the ultimate losers will still be consumers and even Changi Airport Group. A vibrant air hub is not just one big, strong home player, but also a network of other airlines to provide a variety of routes and options that will enhance the global connectivity of Changi.
Having said that, Mr. Chen, are we then expected to also see fare wars or aggressive promotional pricing as a result of this?
Personally, I think it's still a little bit too early to say. They are leaving in July gradually. During this short term, we can see the prices fluctuating. But July is usually a lull period for certain routes. So the prices will definitely fluctuate based on the routes and destinations. But I think once Jetstar departs after July 31st, we do see we have to see how fast the incumbents, Scoot and AirAsia, take up the remaining slots what kind of routes they will deploy, and from there we can only tell how the prices will change.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, Mr. Chen. Chen Chuanren there, Regional Editor of Air Transport World at Aviation Week Network.